Good afternoon, honorable members. I want to welcome all members who have logged into this virtual mini-plenary session. There will now be an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Thank you, honorable members. We will now proceed. Honorable members, I would like to remind you that the virtual mini-plenary is deemed to be in the precincts of Parliament, and it constitutes a meeting of the National Assembly for debating purposes only, where no decisions will be taken. In addition to the rules of virtual sittings, the rules of the National Assembly, including the rules of debate, will apply. Members enjoy the same powers and privileges that apply to a sitting of the National Assembly. Members should equally note that anything said on the platform is deemed to have been said to the House and may be ruled upon. All members who have logged in shall be considered to be present and are requested to mute their microphones and only unmute it when recognized to speak. This is because the microphones are very sensitive and will pick up any noise which might disturb the attention of other members or the members who is busy speaking. And only when you are recognized to speak, you must unmute your microphone and connect your video. Members may make use of the icons on the bar at the top and the bottom of their screens, which is an option that allows a member to put up his or her hand to raise points of order. I will be assisted by the Secretariat when such incidents occur. When using the virtual system, members are urged to refrain or desist from unnecessary points of order or interjections. We now get to the subject for discussion. We shall now proceed to the order of this session, which is a subject for discussion in the name of the Honorable Semenya on ensuring the right of access to water for all and the matter of water rights to achieve long-term sustainable water security for South Africa. I've been informed that the subject, which was originally sponsored by the Honorable Tseke, is now sponsored by the Honorable Semenya. I will now recognize the Honorable Semenya from the virtual platform. The Honorable Semenya.
Malibongwe. Thank you, Chair. Can the host unmute my camera?
Honorable member, you may proceed even if your camera is not on, so that we can commence with proceedings. I'm sure they will sort it out for you.
Okay, thank you very much, Chairperson. Honorable members, Honorable Chair, and the guests for this Parliament. The ANC and the world commemorate the life and time of our community leader, the first Black woman who earned a Bachelor of Science degree in the USA, Comrade Charlotte Maxeke. She would have turned 150 years in April this year. She loved her country and her people. She fought for the freedom from deplorable living conditions, such lack of access to clean water, education, health facilities.
Honorable members, order. There is another member who has a microphone on. Will you please mute that member? And honorable members, I made a very polite request. Do not unmute your microphone when another member is on the podium. It is disturbing the session. And what will happen from now onwards is, if it occurs again, I will unfortunately have to ask that member to leave the platform so that we can get on with the business of the House. Please continue. Honorable Semenya, you may continue. Is the Honorable Semenya on the platform? May I be advised if the Honorable Semenya is still on the platform?
Yes, I'm on the platform.
Honorable Semenya, I'm also informed there's background noise coming from your microphone as well. Can you just attend to that?
No.
And please proceed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Honorable members, Honorable Chair of the session, Mr. Frolik, it's my pleasure to participate in this sponsors motion. The ANC and the world commemorate the life and time of our community leader, the first Black woman who earned a Bachelor of Science degree in the US, Comrade Charlotte Maxeke. She would have turned 150 years in April this year. She loved her country and her people. She fought for the freedom from deplorable living conditions, such as lack of access to clean water, education, health facilities, sanitation, health, living environment, and amongst many other rights. Today, we remember her famous rebuke to the then leadership, where he said, I quote, "This work is not for yourself. Kill that spirit of self and do not live above the people, but live with them. If you can rise, bring someone with you." I therefore ask us today, in fact, I challenge you to show me what you are doing for your community. What have you done for your country? Learn from Charlotte Maxeke, the embodiment of the leadership, and start serving our communities and our country by making sure that everyone has access to clean water and sanitation. Make it our business and assist the ANC to complete the National Democratic Revolution. The Freedom Charter declares, amongst others, that all shall have equal rights. The Constitution of the Republic of South Africa contains all these rights. Water cut across amongst majority of these rights, such as those that relate to the public health, dignity, property, food, land, property, and environment. The Constitution views water as both public and economic goods that should be made available to everyone who needs it. In fact, it states that everyone has the right to have access to sufficient food and water. This right talks directly to the water security, which is a fundamental in the attainment of social and economic needs. The Constitution essentially guarantees all South Africans the right to equitable access and utilization of water in all its forms. In this regard, it will work to acknowledge the efforts of the democratic government led by the ANC to redress the past racial discrimination of the use of water and access to water for social and economic needs. The Water Allocation Reform Program was instituted more than a decade ago, but has not yielded the intended result, while access to water by households remains stagnant at around 90%. This is a cause for concern, which would require urgent and decisive course of action from all spheres of government and society. To this end, legislatively, it appears access to water is guaranteed in South Africa. However, it is not the case on the ground. Many people, particularly Black, do not have access to water for the socio-economic needs. This then back to the question, how do we ensure that everyone has access to water for socio-economic transformation? Is this government doing enough to implement the water allocation reform? all of us, let's work together to make sure that our citizens access water for the social and economic needs. At this juncture, it is imperative to note that South Africa's participation or efforts towards the United Nations International Decade for Action on Water for Sustainable Development of 2018 to 2028 and the Sustainable Development Goal 6 of access to water and sanitation for all. The Decade of Action aims to promote the sustainable development and the integrated management of water resource for achievement of social and economic and environmental objectives and furtherance of the cooperation and partnership at all levels to achieve international agreed water-related goals and targets, including those in the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. In an effort to ensure water security for socio-economic development, government through the Minister Lindiwe Sisulu has launched the National Water Master Plan in 2019 to eradicate poverty, inequality, and unemployment through water sector. It is a comprehensive collective of action and schedules aimed to address the backlog and challenges in infrastructure investment, institutional reform in water resource management, and the required capacity and financial investment. This is a plan that guides water development now and well into the future. It provides mechanisms and targets for, amongst others, redistribution of water for transformation and amending legislation. The Decade of Action call for cooperation and partnership at all levels to achieve a water-secured world. In this regard, South Africa signed numerous international agreements on the cooperation in the field of water resource and related matters. This agreement will ensure, among others, capacity building, transfer of skills, sustainable utilization of shared water resource, exchange of knowledge in research and development in South Africa water value chain. Cuba, Lesotho, and Netherlands, Mozambique, and Namibia, and Botswana, Zimbabwe, Swaziland, Russia, and China are some of the countries that South Africa has entered into agreement. Some of this cooperation and partnership have started bearing fruit. For example, Cuban engineers have been providing technical support in the country for this month now. Netherlands was instrumental in the development and drafting of the master plan, and the Lesotho Highland Water Project continue to supply water to Gauteng province for both social and economic needs. The COVID-19 pandemic brought the world to the standstill and introduced a new normal. South Africa, like the rest of the world, declared COVID-19 outbreak a national state of emergency in March 2020. The World Health Organization recommended several measures to combat the spread of virus, such as washing hands frequently with water and soap, or using hand sanitizing gel and maintaining social distance, amongst many others. Washing hands as a measure to combat the spread of COVID-19 puts water at the apex of measures to combat spread of COVID-19. In fact, COVID-19 repositioned water at the global agenda. It vindicated the advocates of water as a public good that should be freely accessible to all the basic needs. Advent to COVID-19 remind us of the prophetic statement of the former United Nations General Secretary Kofi Annan, who once said, "We shall not defeat any of the infectious diseases that plunge the developing world until we have also won the battle for safe drinking water, sanitation, and basic health care. No war will be won unless the people have access to water for both social and economic needs." This further vindicates the stance of the ANC government in 1994 to prioritize access to water and sanitation for all citizens. Albeit variable success, this then saved lives during this outbreak as majority had access to water, and those that did not have, they were supplied with temporary water tanks and water tankering. Congruent with the ANC lead mantra, the President of the Republic, Cyril Ramaphosa, launched economic recovery, Reconstruction Recovery Plan in October 2020. The recovery plan presents an extraordinary measures to restore the economy for inclusive growth following the devastating cost by the COVID-19 to the citizens lived and the economic in general. It is an extension of the National Development Plan. It seeks to create jobs primarily through aggressive infrastructure investment, mass employment program, reindustrialize the economy, focusing on growing small business, accelerate economic reform to unlock investment and growth, fight crime and corruption, improve the capacity of the state. Although this is an economic plan, water is central to its success. In fact, water is an enabler to almost all objectives of the recovery plan. For instance, development, expansion, maintenance, and operation of bulk and reticulation water infrastructure will create thousands of jobs, deliver much needed water to the people for both social and economic needs. For example, the Mokolo and Crocodile River Project Phase 2A will augment the domestic and industrial water supply to the new Eskom independent power producer power station to extend associated mining activities and accommodate growing population in Waterberg district in Limpopo province. The structural reform aimed at unlocking investment and growth would fast-track the processing of water license application within 3 months. This will go a long way in redressing the past racial discrimination and equitable water use. The SONA 2021 affirms this objective. It further states that this reform would be managed and guided through the Operation Vulindlela, which is a leading governmental program on structural reform.
Honorable Semenya, your time is now expired. Honorable Member, your time is expired. I will now invite the Honorable Basson.
Thank you very much, Chair.
You're welcome. The Honorable Basson.
Thank you, Chairperson. Access to safe and sufficient fresh water is a fundamental requirement for the survival, well-being, and socio-economic development of all humanity. Yet government continues to act as if fresh water is an everlasting resource. Well, it's not. Chairperson, water shortage throughout the country is about to put load shedding in the dark. The water crisis is a result of ANC government's inability to protect, expand, maintain, manage, and finance this country's water infrastructure. We see on a daily basis political interference, lack of leadership, little to no planning, and the loss of skills in the water sector. Whether we have drought or not, our water infrastructure is by large on the verge of total collapse. In the Blue Drop report of 2014, 1,009 water purification plants in the country were assessed. Only 32% of these plants produced excellent drinking water. Minister, there has not been a single Blue Drop assessment for more than 7 years. This situation is now quite critical. The 2014 Green Drop report assessed 824 sewer plants, receiving 5,000 million litres of sewage every day, with only 16% of these plants meeting the standards. Oversight shows that this situation worsened. This implies that millions of liters of untreated or inadequately treated sewage is illegally discharged into rivers and streams every day. We just have to look at the polluted state of the Hartbeespoort Dam and the Vaal catchment area. All I can say, Chairperson, this ANC government is poisoning our freshwater resources. 82% of South Africa's rivers are considered threatened by pollution. This is a result of non-compliance in the monitoring and enforcement by the ANC government. Minister, this is why the residents of Getleng River in Northwest took matters in their own hands and got the court's blessing to take over water infrastructure. When the corrupt ANC-run municipality broke down, the people of Getleng River rolled up their sleeves and did the work themselves. The judge ordered the residents of Getleng River to 1. Take control of the water infrastructure, fix it, run it, and then claim the cost back from local and provincial government. Not a good story to tell, Minister. Chairperson, a critical issue is the lack of financial capacity to deliver water services to South Africans, with municipalities owing the water trading entity more than 13.2 billion and water boards almost 13 billion rand. This government is dragging its feet in taking decisive steps on non-payment of water by municipalities. Minister, 5 water boards requested financial support of more than 980 million rand in order to keep them afloat with operations, maintenance, and payment of salaries. National Treasury informed you, Minister, the RBIC funds may not be used to assist water boards, and your department does not have budget under goods and services to support water boards. The question to you, Minister, how are you going to prevent water boards from collapsing? How are you going to protect access to safe water to all South Africans? And how are you going to resolve the non-payment of water by municipalities? Chairperson, if we want to make sure we live up to the slogan, water is life and sanitation is dignity, appoint skilled, experienced, and accountable management and end political interference in the day-to-day running of our water resources. Implement the use it or lose it principle by transferring underperforming municipal water infrastructure to water boards. Enforce the polluter must pay principle and create opportunities for private sector partnership with government. But for now, Minister, we have a water crisis because the ANC government has failed South Africa. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Moshlala from the EFF. The Honourable Moshlala.
Thanks so much, Chairperson. Chairperson, Section 27, subsection 1B of the Constitution affirms that everyone has the right to have access to sufficient food and water, and that the state must take reasonable legislative and other measures to achieve the progressive realization of these rights. But the reality faced by millions of South Africa does not reflect these aspirational values of the Constitution. In 2020, Statistics South Africa reported that the percentage of households with access to water increased by a mere 4% between 2012 and 2020. And that about 88% of South African households have access to water. But these numbers mask incredible inefficiencies and failures of the government for the past 27 years. The report indicates that access to water actually declined in 5 provinces between 2002 and 2019. The largest decline was observed in Mpumalanga at minus 5.3 percentage points, Limpopo at minus 3.8 percentage points, and Free State at minus 3.7 percentage points. In reality, only 44.9% of households had access to pipe water in their dwellings in 2019. A further 28.5% access to water on taps in their yard, while 12.2% relied on communal taps and 2.5% relied on neighbors' taps. This is compounded by the fact that we have a state that is fixed on commodifying basic needs such as water, which makes access to quality water to be mediated by one's class position in society. When Cape Town faced severe water crisis, it was ordinary people in townships who were hit the most, because the rich white people in suburbs have private boreholes in their yards, which they use to keep their lawns green. The problem is further exacerbated by the state's general incompetence and propensity to neglect key infrastructure maintenance priorities. As far back as 2016, the country lost 1.1 trillion liters of water through leaks. That is over 3 billion liters of water a day lost through government neglect. In the city of Cape Town, which was experiencing severe water shortages at the time, over 44 billion liters of water were lost through leaks in 1 year. Over 65% of all water lost in the province is through leaks. On top of this flagrant disregard for maintaining water infrastructure, the state has not invested significantly in building new infrastructure, including dams and attended infrastructure that would ensure access to quality water for household and industrial development. The result of these are too dire for communities. Residents of Makana municipality in the Eastern Cape face daily struggles of access to water, because that municipality has basically collapsed and they have neglected maintaining water infrastructure for the past 2 decades. Almost 4 billion has been pumped into Giyani water project since 2010, but the community still does not have water. We know South Africa is a water scarce country, and that through environmentally destructive policies of this capitalist network ruling our country, we have destroyed our freshwater ecosystem. We therefore need to re-emphasize the role of government in ensuring equitable access to water for all citizens. There must be no household without water inside the house in this country. There must be no school without water and flushing toilets. This is all possible, Minister. We need to build new water infrastructure and maintain existing ones, because if we fail to do so, the country will be faced with water shedding in a not too distant future. The Constitution, the Water Service Act, and the National Water Act all make room possible for the state to play a progressive role in making water accessible to all on an equitable basis. It is the ineptitude of this government that prolongs the suffering of our people. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Tseke.
Thank you, Chairperson. My gadget doesn't allow me to open the camera, but I hope
no, you may continue without the camera, Honourable Member.
Chair, one could say it's for the first time I speak over this in the sitting. So it was going to be good if the chair can warn me when I'm left with 1 minute, if it's possible.
I'll do so, Honourable Member.
Chairperson, water is one of the critical natural resources for social reproduction and the sustenance of living organisms. Water has become one of the major sources of conflict in the world due to its scarcity. But equally, there's also a lot of fight because of its a lot of water running, but that people can't access. The scarcity of water has led to the commercialization of water across the world, Private enterprises which process and distribute water have become lucrative industries. The implication of the commercialization of water and the high cost of provision of water, even at household level, will result in many across the world, particularly the poor, to be exposed to water which is not clean. Our own continent has its own conflict due to water. I would say it's not just water, it's political water, where United States wants to see Africans always fighting because it has presumptuous fight between Sudan, Egypt, and Ethiopia. This conflict is based on the Nile, the Blue Water River, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam that is built on the Blue Nile, has recently been one of the hallmarks of the recent conflict. Alleged conflicts in terms of what the United States wanted to be. You know, the former president of US used to always put his hand, even if where he has not have to do anything on. This not only conflict in Africa, but one among many different levels and scales. In South African context, water continues to be a scarce resource, with many of our areas experiencing drought at times due to the incapacity to build the necessary water infrastructure to address the growing need of affordable water to all. The ANC-led government has made great strides in ensuring that majority of South Africa have access to water. One of the key challenges of our water landscape related to water rights, which continues to be largely dominated by the few, and the ANC wants to change that, resulting in the lack of access to water for households and for economic activities. In order to ensure water scarcity for the nation, to address the water, in order to ensure water security for the nation, there is a need to change the culture of the use of water from the perspective of water as an abundant resource to a perspective of water as a scarce resource, which requires usage to take into consideration of the lack of water. Climate change is another factor which will have a dire impact of water security in the long term. It needs to be addressed. With the existing climate change scenario, by 2030, water scarcity in some arid and semi-arid places will be displaced between 24 million to 700 million people will displace those people. It is therefore imperative that we should continue to transition to a carbon-free society, as the consequence of climate change will result in a dire circumstances for the future of generation humankind. Water rights in solving water challenges as a nation, our focus must be to restore the dignity of our people. This means we should solve our water challenge in Amatole, Malutiapofung, and other rural areas where our people have to wait for long periods to have water flowing in their tap. This does not only affect households, but it affects our health system, our schools, and general socio-economic conditions. Since 1994, the African National Congress has ensured that water infrastructure is expanded. In 1994, only 5 million households had access to water, and by 2016, 15.5 million households had access to water. This means we connected more than 10 million households, which apartheid failed our African brothers and mothers and sisters who can address the issue of water. This is a tremendous achievement of the democratic government. The percentage of households with access to an improved source of water was 8.2% by 2018. No government has ever tried to do such improvements. Despite the cost of water, our government provides households which cannot afford water. They get 6 kiloliters of water for free by a municipality before charging an access of usage. Our government spent billions of rand in infrastructure. This has translated to a significant expansion of access to water. Not all is gloom, but it is a better future awaiting those in the areas affected by the lack of water. Honorable Chair, this history of land rights in South Africa is reflected in the current state of holders of water rights, which are mainly white farmers who are in possession of the majority of water rights. The 1956 Water Act is linked with the riparian rights. The democratic government led by the ANC promulgated in 1998 National Water Act, which is anchored in promoting the efficient, sustainable, and beneficial use of water in the public interest and the promotion of equitable access to water. The Act ensures public trusteeship of the nations of water. That the Freedom Charter said that all minerals in the country below the soil and above the soil shall be owned by the people. This is where the Act is going about these resources. Honorable members, a key instrument in expanding access to water is the equitable allocation of water rights to address the imbalance of access of water. As President announced in the State of the Nation, in the water sector, we are working through Operation Vulindlela to ensure that water license applications are finalized within revised time frame of 90 days. I'm saying 90 days, and revive the green drop and blue drop programs to strengthen water quality monitoring. It is with pleasure that as part of the structural adjustment under Operation Vulindlela, in advancing the imperatives of economic reconstruction in creating inclusivity, the minister has ensured that the realization and pronouncement of the president in Insona, that the minister has thus confirmed the following. Starting by April 2021, all applications will be submitted and will be finalized within 90 days, as long as they are with requisite administrative documents. Mr. Member Mushala, Member Bason, hope you are listening. Despite the progress of expanding access to water for all South Africans, particularly those rural and underdeveloped areas, remains an area of concern and focus by the Department of Water Sanitation. In order to expand,
you have 1 minute left. You have now 1 minute left.
Hey, man. I just wanted to say to Member Bason, the ANC have never said water is an everlasting resource. We know that there are many scientific evidence on how water evaporates from the land. But what we are saying is that water is an important resource that every individual in the country must be able to access. In conclusion, as demand of water increase for household, industry, agriculture, and other water, we should embrace the fact that South Africa will be water secure. All people get access. Our orientation around matters of climate change, water pollution, efficient usage of water, user pay principle, as mentioned by the Minister of Finance, will be based on these matters. As over 2 billion people live in countries experiencing high water stress. The vision of Inga Dam and its capacity to ensure water security in Southern Africa should be placed in the center of future interventions to ensure water security as a symbolic relationship that exists between water and development. Thank
you, Honourable Member. Your time has now expired. The next speaker is the Honourable Honourable Members. The next speaker is the Honourable Buthelezi.
Thank you, Chair. Honourable Members, this motion brought before us today can only be viewed as the ruling party following in the superior consciousness of the IFP Last year, we as the IFP took it upon ourselves to dedicate the year to raising awareness of the poor and unsustainable state of water in our country. The subject of this debate speaks about the right to water and long-term sustainable water security in South Africa. We are all fully aware of the major challenges faced in our country regarding access to water, and instead of building new infrastructure while simultaneously maintaining the current structures where feasible, the Department of Water and Sanitation recklessly drowns themselves in irregular and wasteful expenditure. This department behaves in a manner that we are not in a water crisis when Cape Town became the first major city in the world to sit on the brink of day zero. However, this case is not isolated, as we are facing major challenges in areas such as the King Tseke and Umhlatuza districts, where residents have been without water for the past 3 weeks. To add insult to the ruling party's dismal governance injury, Eskom is to blame for further water shortages due to load shedding, whereby the pumps that supply water rely on a constant provision of energy and take up to 4 hours to come back online. In 2020, when all sorts of proclamations were made to market the corruption-riddled ruling party, the Department of Water and Sanitation committed that there would be a reallocation of 1.48 billion to be used to implement water source development. If the department was serious about addressing such vital life-sustaining resources and actually understood the value of true human rights, then the minister will have no problem in reporting here today the expenditure of the money and how each cent has exactly benefited the people of South Africa, whilst being clear of any sort of mismanagement. Honorable Speaker, there is more to the story regarding the miserable performance of this administration. The Department of Water and Sanitation shows its oblivious approach to water security in South Africa, whereby its near non-existent planning is totally misaligned with the needs of the people. For example, municipalities are mandated with water reticulation, and when bulk infrastructure projects are completed by the department, it is not communicated nor properly planned with municipalities. As a result, this leaves critical water infrastructure dormant while municipalities play catch up in trying to meet the service requirements. It is quite clear that this government cannot make the necessary reforms within itself to ensure that a culture of professional, non-partisan, and incorruptible individuals are the real drivers of the development of this country. Like with other African countries, South Africa will soon have to start importing their water from overseas countries due to the poor planning and maintenance. The cadres of the ruling party must already be rubbing their hands together, waiting for irregular tenders to fall into their laps in this regard. With this in mind, it is quite interesting to see what the ruling party actually knows about ensuring sustainable water and ensuring this right for all South Africans. It is only the IFP who are the true bearers of the needs of South African citizens. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable May.
Dankie, voorsitter. Ons as Suid-Afrikaners jubel van blydskap oor die vroeë reën wat mildelik geval het. Afgesien van al die slegte dinge wat in ons land gebeur, is daar iets waaroor ons kan juig, en dit is die middelike reën wat God aan voorreg gehad om 3 weke gelede die grootste damme, die van der Kloof en die Gariepdam, te besoek. En terwyl ek so staar na die damme, toe besef ek daardie massa water wat oor die wal rol, loop alles see toe. En ek het vir myself die vraag afgevra, is dit nodig dat ons een van die 30 droogste lande in die wêreld moet wees? Ons moet meer damme bou en ons moet water meer herlei. Ons bevolkingsaanwas groei vinnig, werkloosheid neem toe. Ons moet vinnig werk skep en op die beste terrein is landbou, maar dan het ons ook meer water nodig. Waterskaarste is nie net alleen in die landelike gebiede nie, maar ook in die...
Can I call order? That, you know, people take their language as a priority. And then if I was speaking in Sesotho, they were going to call for an interpreter. Now he moves in Afrikaans as if we all understand Afrikaans. But what is important here, I'm not saying you must stop and get an interpreter. It is important for you as chairpersons there that all languages are equal. Stop this thing of making a crisis when we don't have.
Thank you, Honourable Member. You've made your point. Thank you. Honourable Members, if you look on your screen at the bottom, there is an icon that indicates their interpretation. Unfortunately, on the virtual platform, we do not have all the languages for interpretation. And the language that honorable members are speaking, and they can use any language they want, is then interpreted into English. That is the only provision that we have, and those are the constraints that we're working with as far as the virtual sitting is concerned. All members are encouraged to use their own language and learn other languages, but for this purpose and for this debate, the honorable member may proceed.
Dankie voorsitter. Waterskaarste is ook nie net alleen op landelike gebiede, maar ook in die metro's. Verlede week het die breingebied by Dispatch Duilweg 4 dae sonder water gesit. En die rede daarvoor is 'n tekort aan ingenieurs. In sekere klein dorpies is daar glad nie meer ingenieurs beskikbaar nie. Ek wil net noem dat elke landelike gebied in Suid-Afrika sukkel op die oomblik met water, maar die 4 provinsies wat sekerlik die meeste sukkel is Limpopo, die Oos-Kaap en die Vrystaat. Dan wil ek vir u noem, ek het in 'n vorige toespraak gesê hoe belangrik watertanks is, want daar is dele van ons land waar dit so goed reën dat jy onafhanklik van die munisipale water kan wees as jy 'n watertank het. Ek was verlede week by 'n bouprojek in KwaNobuhle. Geen geete, geen watertanks nie. Dit is onverantwoordelik. Dis die korttermyn oplossing en ons moet so vinnig as moontlik daarby inval. Ek kan net noem dat ek vanoggend 'n telefoniese gesprek gewees het met die Gamtoos Besproeiingsraad. Die Kouga dam staan op 6.4. Hy voorsien water in die boere van Potensie as ook die Nelson Mandela Metro. Die Nelson Mandela Metro is in 'n krisis. En ek wil net vir u sê dat daar is al beplan 'n plek geïdentifiseer vir nog 'n dam in die Babians Kloof. Hy moet so gou as moontlik gebou word. 'n Paar weke gelede kry ek 'n oproep van boere bo kan die Kouga dam. Hulle sê ek moet kom kyk en hulle het my geneem daarheen. Die sytakke is so toegegroei. Die water kan nie uitkom by die hoofstroom van die Kouga rivier nie. Ek het toe, en ek is dankbaar om te sê, die minister van Finansies het 2 biljoen begroot met die voorlaaste begrotingsdebat. En dit gaan vir Working for Water. En ek gaan so gou as moontlik in kontak kom met die Gamtoos Besproeiingsraad wat daarvoor verantwoordelik is, dat daardie rivier, die sytakke skoongemaak moet word. Dan wat waterregte aanbetref, Suid-Afrika is 'n droë land waar watergebruik deur wetgewing gereguleer word. Die grootste verandering wat deur wetgewing verander is dat water nie meer aan die eiendom behoort nie, maar wel aan die waterverbruiker. Kritiek teen die verandering is dat 'n waterverbruiker moet aansoek doen om 'n watergebruiklisensie. Minder water kan dan toegeken word as wat hy voorheen gebruik het. En die kritiek is dat dit 'n negatiewe invloed op die verwaardasie van die eiendom kan hê en die eienaar finansiëel kan skade ly. Ek sluit af, voorsitter. Ek sien ons het 4 ministers van waterwese gehad die afgelope jare. Ek hoop en vertrou dat minister Sezulu vir ten minste nog 'n termyn kan aanbly. Die rede hoekom ek so sê, om waterbeplanning te doen, moet neem jare. En ek hoop en vertrou dat daar nie volgende termyn weer 'n ander minister van waterwese is. Baie dankie, voorsitter.
Thank you, honorable member. The next member to speak is the Honorable KRJ Meshu.
Thank you, Chairperson. The Constitution lays the responsibility for access to water at the door of the state, regardless of climatic conditions, because government should make and execute the necessary plans to store and distribute water to our people. Water Services Act makes municipalities responsible for supplying those in their area of jurisdiction with water and sanitation services. Scientists and farmers know that South Africa's rainfall has always been variable and unpredictable, but reliable supplies can be provided to communities, industrial water users, and irrigation farmers if storage infrastructure is built with enough capacity to cope with regular dry periods. It is important that infrastructure has to be managed with a watchful eye on the ever-changing climate. If the infrastructure is not built and properly maintained, then problems will arise. Municipalities must start prioritizing the maintenance of all neglected and aging infrastructure. After their inquiry into the sewage crisis in the Vaal, The South African Human Rights Commission found that the Mfuleni local municipality flouted its constitutional duties by allowing people to live in deteriorating conditions for years. They even recommended that cabinet should intervene and help the people of Mfuleni who had to contend with raw sewage flowing through their streets and properties for many years. The ACDP, in support of the recommendations by the Human Rights Council, urges government to urgently intervene in this matter. The Vaal River supplies water to 46% of our country's economy and 33% of our people. The taxpayers of Gauteng, as well as some in Mpumalanga, Northern Cape, and Free State, depend on it. And most of the Eskom power stations in Gauteng also receive their water from the Vaal River. Yet, according to the SAHRC's report on the Vaal River crisis, the Mfuleni municipality has allowed kiloliters of untreated sewage to flow into the Vaal River. This is irresponsible and a dereliction of duty. Because of poor and total lack of maintenance, the inoperative and dilapidated wastewater treatment plants have been unable to manage the treatment of the sewage and wastewater produced. As a result, raw sewage flowed not only in the Vaal, but also onto residential streets, schools, homes, and other public areas in the jurisdiction of the Mfuleni municipality, thereby jeopardizing the health of people in those communities. In Makhanda in the Eastern Cape, there has been a water crisis for the last 2 years. Drought is only partly to blame. The Makhanda municipality recently admitted to a faulty pump at the James Klein Hans water treatment works. Broken water pumps are not, however, new to the area. In 2013,
Honorable Member, your time has now expired. Thank you,
sir.
The next speaker is the Honorable Bryant.
Thank you. Approximately half of South Africa's rain falls over less than 10% of our land, and rainfall patterns are becoming more difficult to predict as our climate continues to change. There's only so much we can do to realistically mitigate against the changing environment, and therefore we must find ways to adapt. To put it simply, we cannot continue to rely on rainfall alone if we wish to be a water-secure country. South Africa's ongoing drought crisis has had a severe impact on many sectors of the economy, and it's been horrific to see the lack of action from the ANC-led national government during the drought, which has left many local municipalities to look after themselves. And sadly, many have failed dismally. In Makhanda, the ANC-controlled local government has failed to come up with any sort of a coherent plan to deal with the drought. And over the past few years, the town has faced ongoing shortages, with little children going thirsty and some residents resorting to collecting drinking water from drains. We must contrast this to the drought response from the DA-controlled city of Cape Town, which won international acclaim for its sophisticated and pragmatic response to the drought, which ensured that Cape Town's taps never ran dry, and the economy was able to recover and thrive, despite the most formidable odds, including a lack of support from the national government. Honourable Semenya asked what we're doing for our communities. Well, DA-led governments are working to protect local water resources, while at the same time finding ways to use them to augment municipal supply. Last year, the city of Cape Town launched the first groundwater supply project from the Table Mountain Group Aquifer, which will contribute up to about 30 million litres per day. The DA-led administration is committed to safeguarding this aquifer for future generations. DA governments have even begun projects to harvest water from fog. Honourable Tseke, the issue isn't water rights. The issue is that the ANC government has not invested in sustainable water resources and has failed to adapt to the changing climate. The protection of natural water resources falls under the mandate of the Department of Environment, Forestry and Fisheries, although you wouldn't have been able to tell that if you'd listened to the Minister's speech last year on the performance plan, where the word water was only mentioned once. Instead of fulfilling this mandate, we're in fact seeing the direct opposite in many areas under ANC control. In Mpumalanga, the local ANC MEC recently revoked the protected status of the Mabola protected area, which includes critical natural water sources. And so far, no one in authority can seem to give a conclusive answer as to why this protection was revoked. But it's well known that there's a long-standing proposal for a coal mine in this area, and that the alleged empowerment beneficiaries of the mine are widely reported to be the nephews of a certain former state president. Now, if these allegations are true, this would be yet another example of this ANC government choosing patronage over the interests of South Africans and the overall sustainability of the environment. Remember, you need water for almost everything. even making cups of tea. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Allow me, Honourable House Chair, to start off by paying tribute to a very well-known person who lost her life through COVID-19 today, and a great loss to journalism in South Africa, Karima Brown, who was famous for the show The Fix. May her soul rest in peace, and our deepest condolences to her family, friends, and many of them in the journalism field. Now, Honorable House Chair, you know, over 40 years ago, and I said this before, Mr. Sukraj, a science teacher in Fairhaven Primary School in Chatsworth, identified and drew our attention to the value of water, and in a debate he called it water is life. And the challenges that we face in years to come, particularly in
Honourable Sheikh Imam, Honourable Sheikh Imam, will you just hold there, please? There's a disturbance on the line, and it's happening continuously it comes from the Honourable Mvana. The Honourable Member's microphone is on. Can we please ensure that that member is removed from the platform? You may continue, Honourable Sheikh Imam. My apologies for that.
Thank you, House Chair. House Chair, right now as I speak to you, a very great percentage of people residing in the Durban North area are without water since this morning, and which will only return later tomorrow. Now, I want to remind my friend from the Democratic Alliance that it's the National Freedom Party that highlighted the people of the Western Cape and the plight in terms of water shortages in the Western Cape. And when you talk about Table Mountain, it's something you ought to have done 20 years ago, because that water has been running into the ocean with no attempt by the city who's responsible for distributing this water and doing anything. But what did you do in turn? You made the city of Cape Town a water scarce city. You put up the prices, you put up surcharges. Up to this very day, the people in the Western Cape are suffering as a result of that. Now, House Chair, let me draw your attention to another challenge. And I must pay tribute to Zanele Magwaza Msibi, the former district mayor of Zululand, who paid so much attention to water in the Zululand district. And in her absence today, Abakulusi municipality, the Ulundi municipality, and the Nangoma municipality, people living in those areas are having a serious challenge in terms of getting water. But I can assure you what is thriving is the corruption in terms of water and water tankers that are being rolled out in these particular areas. Now, we have another problem, Honorable House Chair, and that is some areas are losing approximately 45% of their water through poor infrastructure. And again, as the NFP, we highlighted the plight, and that is why we said we need to create an industry in South Africa to manufacture locally those goods that we're importing from India, the United States, and China, so that together we could be able to produce this good and roll out water and sanitation throughout the country.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Your time is now expired. The next speaker is the Honourable Hendricks.
Thank you very much, Honourable House Chair. Honourable House Chair, the governing party must be congratulated for connecting 10 million residents to a water supply. Just imagine how bad it must have been during apartheid under white rule. But we do have a serious problem. For example, in the Ugi district municipality, the Bremer community endures water outages for 8 days or more. The mayor and city manager was summoned to this house by Kochta, and in spite of a dressing down by the chair of Kochta, and I can tell you, she can give you a dressing down, the situation, Honourable House Chair, has not improved. In Heberden, not far away, a resident has asked to be given a certificate for managing to endure 39 days without water. I think Chair of Chairs, you need to issue that woman with a certificate because no one else is going to do that. The issue of water treatment plants is a serious problem in the in the Cape Town municipality, where the city of Cape Town pours poorly treated sewerage in the rivers, and that water runs past small holdings and people, and it also seeps to Khayelitsha, where there are toxins as a result of this poorly treated sewerage that harms 1 million residents in Khayelitsha, and they don't know that they are dying a slow death. So a water treatment plant, the solution that the city of Cape Town came was to increase the capacity 10 times. In other words, cause 10 times more harm to the rivers. What we need in South Africa is not large sewage treatment plants. Every dorpie, every town must have their own sewage treatment plant. You can't accumulate the sewerage of 1 million residents into one place and then pump it into our waterways and rivers, and then it goes into the ocean. And our snook has been harmed by the city of Cape Town. You test any snook in Cape Town today, and you will find that it is 20% diseased, and you've got to cut it away and you eat the other part. So the issue of water is a serious problem in Masiphumeleli. The waterways are also badly managed by the city of Cape Town, and they have already been issued with 2 convictions by the environmental enforcement officer. The mayor was hauled over the coals and had to sign a settlement agreement with a public protector, and also the human rights wrote a damning report. So municipalities where it is a governing party, the official opposition where they rule, they are letting the nation down, Honourable Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Mashego.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good afternoon. Chair, I'm surely the country must not be surprised why Honorable Person will choose Hetlein Driver Dorpi, which is an Afrikaner name and Afrikaner residence area. And you forget about Mzimvubu, Giani, Tukelau, Lipelle, Val, and all others, but he can only choose Hetlein Driver because that's where Buddhists are staying. And I think also the fact that Honorable May want to represent the interest of when there is quite a lot of other people that are disadvantaged by the process. It being the case, Chairperson, and I think because we are not worried, we are worried about everybody, not only segmentation of people. We want to in opening this debate to remind the country that this is a month of water, March. The campaign this year seeks to highlight the importance of challenges that are highlighted in the National Water and Sanitation Plan, such as insufficient water, infrastructure maintenance, and investment inequalities in access to water and sanitation and water quality. The ANC acknowledges that water remains a critical strategic natural resource, which is essential for growth and development, for the environment and the health and the well-being of all South Africans. Through the provision of water, the ANC seeks to ensure that there is an increase in water access to the poor, whilst promoting effective and efficient resource management. It argues for the efficient water use reduction and pollution and water loss, improving water productivity and stretching of water resources. This is important, ensuring that we smartly manage our water resource to ensure that we achieve sustainable future. However, in order to achieve this, we have to address the challenges that exist in our water system. High amongst those are the infrastructure challenges. South Africa is a water scarce country, and this scarcity is due to many factors such as insufficient water infrastructure maintenance and investment inequalities in access to water and sanitation and deteriorating water quality. Many communities, though, continue to live without water as municipalities have not been able to maintain and provide the necessary infrastructure to ensure that water runs through the taps. This highlights the importance of maintaining and building water infrastructure to ensure that there is an expansion of water to all South Africans, particularly those in township and rural areas. We need to ensure that we urgently address our own sufficient investment in water infrastructure and inadequate management of water resource. Additionally, we need to confront the aging water infrastructure that currently cannot meet the current demands of South Africa. This is important as it poses a threat to the future sustainability of the country's water supply. The challenges that are being experienced with the existing infrastructure is an additive to that. There is a need to be thorough, because if this is not addressed, it will have an impact on sustainable asset management. Water boards working with local government through municipalities are important for this distribution of water and the bulk water services to South Africans. This is crucial for the socio-economic well-being of people and the provision of reliable and accessible supply of safe drinking water that sustains the support the livelihoods. We must ensure that the challenges that confront water boards and municipalities are addressed speedily. These key institutions are important to restoring the dignity of our people. Because when these institutions do not work together, it is our people and the poor that suffer, who live in township and rural areas, that feel the brunt of a lack of access to clean water and decent water. We need to start being change-based and working towards sustainable solutions. We welcome the work that has been done during the pandemic, which saw water boards and municipalities rolling out emergency water provision to the most disadvantaged areas, such as the township and rural areas. We also welcome the conclusion of the water and sanitation master plan, which is significant to the transformation of water and sanitation landscape. Of significance in this master plan is the creation of the National Water Resource Infrastructure Agency, which was highlighted by the President in the State of the Nation address. It is significant because of the instrumental role that it will make in sustaining and performance of all strategically important water supply systems in regions where water security is at increasing risk. This agency will fundamentally and strategically ensure that there is equitable provision of water for all, ensure that ordinary South Africans have access to sufficient clean water, ensure that the economy has sufficient water, and it will support the vision of universal dignified water. At the core of this work of this agency is to ensure that quality water and sanitation of all South Africans and guarantee water sustainability for the economy. The work of this agency will be such that it works in a unified and coordinated manner with local government and water boards to ensure that it uplifts the quality of water supply and infrastructure South Africans, particularly to poor and the vulnerable. We have noted in dismay as communities such as the municipality of Makana, battling for years with water scarcity and are currently experiencing major challenges with the quality of water that is being pumped into the dams. We must work consistently and strategically to ensure that water scarcity and water quality challenges are urgently addressed. We need to ensure that quality water that is delivered is of the requisite quality to enhance lives and to restore dignity. It must be noted that despite strong regulatory tools in law, the quality of raw water across South Africa continues to deteriorate. This is a huge problem because it is a threat and aquatic function, and economic growth, health, hygienic, and social development. Poor raw water quality not only increases the cost of treatment to domestic and industrial, but it also negatively impacts agricultural production and thus the economy. If we are to seriously improve the quality of water in our country, we need to ensure that there is strong regulation. The water resource by water boards in relation to raw water pricing strategy is central to the revenue stream, which is working together with municipalities are critical to delivering water services. What remains important, though, is that the raw pricing water strategy, the raw stressing water strategy must at all times ensure that the quality of services delivered to municipalities is of a requisite quality. The pricing must not increase whilst there are no or poor water supply services provided. The ANC's vision for water remains that of ensuring that people have access to water and quality water. We are well aware that the water remains a scarce commodity, and that is in the near future we will be confronted with water shortages. As a nation, we need to ensure that as part of the contribution to sustainable future and ensuring water security, we preserve water and also produce water quality. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Tseke.
Thank you, Chair. And due to connectivity, my video will be off. Am I audible, Chair?
Yes, you may continue, Honourable Member.
Honourable Chair, I want to use the very little time that I have in this opportunity to highlight the very serious situation that has been developing in the eThekwini municipality for quite some time now. If there is no urgent intervention, the situation in the eThekwini municipality will worsen and millions of people will be left without water in the city. Every single day, in some corner of the city, underground water pipes are crumbling and thousands of residents are left without water for days on end, in some cases for weeks. Recently, a pump station collapsed and was unable to supply water to hundreds of thousands of residents in the western parts of the city, including my constituency, Chatsworth. This incident received national coverage and furious residents have been threatening to embark on a rates boycott. It took the municipality almost 3 weeks to resolve the outage and find a new pump. As part of its maintenance program, any efficiently run city, like the city of Cape Town, is expected to have additional replacement pumps for such emergencies. But this is eThekwini. This is not an isolated incident. The similar situation has developed in the northern parts of the city on many occasions. There are no backup pumps or critical spares when emergencies occur, largely because of delays in awarding of maintenance contracts and poor forward planning, if any. The city has failed over the years to invest in its resources in maintenance of its water infrastructure, and residents are now starting to see the effects of this. Years of neglect, poor planning, and a failed maintenance record has now resulted in the eThekwini municipality needing more than 21 billion rand to repair its failing infrastructure. There is no hope of the city finding this money because its revenue collection has been constantly on the decline. But this is only part of the contributing factors to the water crisis the city is facing. The eThekwini municipality spends hundreds of millions of rands every year purchasing water from Mngeni Water. But more than half of what it buys is lost into the ground because of crumbling infrastructure. The result is residents having to pay double the cost for water. Every time there is a water outage, the city dispatches water tankers. This free water generates no revenue for the city, and millions of rands are lost every month. The city has 90 water tankers, but only half of them are operational. This results in the city having to hire an additional 50-odd water tankers, costing approximately 9 million rand a month. This money could have been used to replace the aging infrastructure. There are also more than 47,000 meters in the city that are not being read and therefore no revenue recollected from them. Instead of having a preventative plan, the city has a reactive plan. But whilst the city has been left to deteriorate to the state, the eThekwini municipality sees it fit to pay 526 million rand this year on performance bonuses, thereby rewarding incompetence. Speaker, this is a shocking state of affairs in eThekwini, proudly brought to you by the leadership of the corrupt ANC.
Honourable Member, your time is now
when you put a useless ANC into power, the people of eThekwini are going to punish the ANC in a few months to come.
Honourable Member, your time is expired.
Thank you, Chair.
The next speaker is the Honourable Semenya.
Thank you, Chair. Let me repeat the words of the wisdom from our former President Nelson Mandela. Do not judge me by my success. Judge me by how many times I fell down and got up again. The ANC government may be, the ANC government, my goodness, it's gone, sorry, Chair. The ANC government may be facing the challenges now, but believe me, the ANC will never get rid of to serve the people of South Africa. The ANC has no time to talk, but to keep serving the people. The ANC is an enemy of its own success, Chair. It has achieved much in a short space of time, but it is still not enough. The 10% that still need to be given water, we are taking cognizance that we have to look at how we frustrate the delivery services through our DDM model to make sure that our people get water. Let me talk to DA and EFF Chair. As they blame the ANC on their collapse, on their alliance, when they got in city of Tshwane and Johannesburg and Nelson Mandela, there was water. They came there and do their own things and disrupt services. Now they want to blame ANC on their failure. The ANC will continue to make sure that our people get water where we have not reached them. And I must indicate that, Chair, it is indisputable fact that the crime and corruption has not spared this sector, including water sector. In this regard, the President has signed several or numerous proclamations authorizing the special units to investigate all the malfeasance that happened in the sector, and Minister was on record in declaring zero tolerance to corruption, and there are officials that have been arrested. There are millions that were recovering from those that have stolen from government, and we will support government through its policies of DDM to make sure that every citizen receive water in this country. The 10%, you can look at the long walk that we've traveled in delivering services to our people, and now we're at 7%. Let me talk about the IFP, because they want to become clean. When they were in the government before, and even in the democratic government, they've started to lead KZN. What is it that they have done? Why there is no water in KZN? And the majority of our people does not have water in KZN. And today they want to climb the hill and want to score points. We are accepting our mistake, and we are saying, together with our people, we are going to move South Africa forward. We are going to make sure that every citizen in this country get water, access to water. Every citizen in this country is able to participate even in the transformation of water, because we know that in Ligiani that they are talking about, Honorable Mushala choose the facts to suit her. It doesn't talk about the farmer who has actually constructed the dam on the stream that's supposed to go into to water and give our people water. Now our people in Guyana, they are unable to get water because somebody has constructed illegal dam, and we want to appeal to Minister and his team to go and demolish all illegal dams that disturb our people and make sure that our people get water, including in Polokwane, the dam that's supposed to supply Polokwane. There is illegal dams that have been building. Today they are standing here up the hill and wants to claim that the ANC has done nothing. The ANC has worked with our people, and we're still saying, together with them, we are going to achieve our goal and the president has pronounced the recovery plan, which water is going to be an enabler, and make sure that we transform this country to his glory, and make sure that there is service delivery amongst our people, and long live the ANC, long live our people, because the future is bright with President Ramaphosa and the ANC. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Members, that concludes the debate and the business of this virtual mini-plenary session. And the mini-plenary will now rise. Thank you.